Hi everybody, I am getting ready to head off to the airport. I have unplugged everything, set my thermostat, charged everything that I can think of, including my AirPods, my phone, my watch, and getting ready to head off to the airport. I wanted to take a quick shout out to those that are taking me to the airport so I don't have to leave my car at the airport for 2 weeks. I'm so excited to be dropped off. It's so exciting. I am getting ready, and so hopefully you'll follow along with this great, amazing journey that I am solo traveling. I will talk to you hopefully all soon as I board the plane. Here is everything that I am packing and taking with me on my international trip. I am going to take on the plane with me my purse and a backpack with a water bottle. And then here is my checked bag. I am going to do carry-on size, but I'm going to check it so I don't have to worry about carrying it throughout the airports and changing planes and everything. So I'm very excited to take everything with me. Hopefully I've remembered everything. I have made it on the plane for my first flight from Omaha Airport to Minneapolis, and then am connecting to the London Heathrow for my final destination to begin my 2-week trip from London to Paris to Oxford for a day trip. I'm so excited. Good morning. It is the start of my first full day here in London. I got in about right on time, about 1:15 p.m. to the Heathrow Airport. All travels went very smoothly. It was a really long flight. As you can see, I'm still trying to wake up, but it was a really long flight, but everything went smoothly. Customs was really quick. Didn't even have to wait in the line, got my bag, tried to take the underground to the actual hotel, but there is, I found out later, a protest happening in London, so a lot of the lines were closed. So I had to backtrack and go through the Elizabeth line, which takes less time but is more expensive. But I was able to do that, but got off at the wrong station, and then ended up having to take a Uber to get to my hotel because at that point I was not sure exactly how to get anywhere. I did have an issue with my cell service and that I needed to turn on data roaming. I eventually got that notice, but it did not happen right away. So I eventually figured that out. So I had data on my phone now, which is very good for Google Maps and City Mapper, which is how I'm gonna get around today and finding everything in my exciting adventures. Hopefully you come along with this today. Today I'm sticking around the hotel area and going to the British Museum, the British Library, and hopefully taking advantage of the hop on, hop off bus ticket that I got yesterday. But with the protests, a lot of the roads were closed. I found that out from an Uber driver. So hopefully I can figure out what exactly I can get done today. So come along for this adventure. Of course, the first order of business was to find a great coffee shop, so I walked to this gorgeous park with all the pigeons, and then found Le Cordon Bleu, which is a great pastry and coffee shop. It was actually the best coffee I had for my iced mochas, and it was just cool to see all the students in their uniforms and getting ready to take their cooking classes. I later continued to walk by the British Museum and find the red telephone booths, and of course I had to take that first picture of me in front of those booths. Came across my first Starbucks in London, so exciting. I saw some great architecture and came across the Harry Potter and Cursed Child Theater, which has looked gorgeous, and some great pubs to look at, and just admiring all the great architecture. As I got to the British Museum when it first opened, I was able to check out the amazing inside and all the exhibit halls. It was just gorgeous to look around and just seeing all of the great architecture, let alone all of the exhibits within the British Museum. I really enjoyed my time here. I first started in the reading room and just taking in all the active archives and people working that they can use these resources. An amazing collection. They can actually work at some of these desks. As you can see, one of the original desks is in here with leather tabletops. It was just gorgeous to see. I then ventured on to see the Rosetta Stone, and just seeing that in person was astounding, seeing all the different languages, as well as just taking in all the Egyptian artifacts and just how extraordinary it was to see a woman in Egypt, and then moving on to some massive structures of the actual remains and sculptures that are available is just amazing, and you can just not fully see all the details without being there in person. But I wanted to share some of those great architecture and sculpting and just all of the available archives that are from history. And I never truly understood the history of things until seeing this. Hi, sitting outside the British Museum. I just got done. So cool to see everything from ancient Greece to Egypt to all the sculptures in the library room. It was absolutely gorgeous, and I kept saying that over and over and over again. So exciting and fun. The weather is amazing. It's so cool. I am currently wearing this little sweater and a jumpsuit, and I'm perfect. I also this morning just threw on a rain jacket just for another layer, which worked out perfectly. And it was a great idea to get here right when it opened at 10 a.m. I got a admission ticket, and the crowds are very manageable at 10 a.m., which is so good. I'd highly recommend coming here as soon as you can. Saw the Rosetta Stone first, which was kind of funny, totally happenstance, but crowded, await your turn. You should be able to get video, no problem, or audio, or images in. So it was very cool, exciting. Love to see it. It was gorgeous, bigger than I thought, but very cool. Love the ancient Egypt stuff, all the sculptures and just writing and all the colors and paintings. I didn't realize how vibrantly colorful they all are or could have been. It's very cool to see how it was restored. It's very neat to see all the pottery from all the decades, past history, just mind-boggling. You could spend hours here. I just hit the highlights, which is very cool. Lots of stairs, just keep that in mind. There are elevators, but mainly a bunch of stairs, which is good. Just keep that in mind as you go through. It was a great opportunity. I then found this local pub next door and had a gorgeous lunch and salad with a sandwich, and really enjoyed a sit down for a while. It was so nice. I then hopped on the Hop On Hop Off bus tour. They were at a stop right outside the British Museum, which was perfect to just start my route. I did spend a couple hours riding around on the giant loop that it takes, just checking in all of London, seeing the Big Ben and the Parliament Square and the Parliament offices, and just taking in all of the beautiful architecture and what London has to offer. I really enjoyed the top layer or the top part of the bus, just sitting outside. It was a beautiful, gorgeous day. I really got to take full advantage. The sun was out, very few clouds. I had really good weather on this trip. I was very lucky in that most of the days were sunny. Almost all of them were. I think it rained one of my 9 days in London and then one of my days in Paris, which is kind of amazing at this point. But I will let you enjoy these sightseeing as we progress. There you can see we have the London Eye, which was operational during the trip. I did not go on the London Eye. It was pretty expensive, so I also am not a fan of that. So I just took in the bus ride, and going under the Tower of London was one of my major highlights. It was gorgeous. It was so massive. You don't truly understand its size until you're there in person. I'd highly recommend taking a drive underneath the tower and just seeing all the architectural detail. It was absolutely stunning, and that blue is gorgeous. Love that color. It was very cool to see, and just taking it all in as we drove along. We did then pass by the Tower of London, got amazing views of what that looked like. I laughed when I saw this Clueless theater, and then drove through this Parliament Square. It was just gorgeous. I saw my first traditional taxi. It was just a lot of firsts on this first day, just taking it all in with the flags and seeing the Ritz-Carlton. It was just an amazing tour and just taking it all in. Loved just being able to ride around and seeing it all. Hi, good evening. I've made it back to my hotel room after an amazing day visiting the British Museum, and then also taking the Toot bus tour all across town and checking out all of the lines and all they have to offer and seeing everything and getting a lay of the land in London. I think that was like the best idea. So now I have a better understanding of how the city is mapped out and what things I want to go back to, what streets I really liked and preferred, and all of that great information is very helpful. I did have some issues with, since I was on the Green Line, I wouldn't recommend this service for that because it was very spotty, or like every hour that a bus could come, and so you had to time it, and that wasn't very clear as to what time that actually was. So for that reason, if that is still happening, I wouldn't recommend this specific company, but there's a lot of other options, or even the city bus has been amazing. I've actually much preferred the city bus over the actual like tour company bus. It's a lot more reliable, have a lot more trains, a lot more buses that you can take. So keep that in mind as you are working through this and kind of thinking through what your best opportunities are. I think there are also bus lines that are just for sightseeing, so I should check that out and see if I prefer those and how much those cost. Would be kind of cool to compare and see what the differences are. So getting into it, I kind of want to talk about my highlight from today and then also from yesterday, since I didn't get a chance to actually talk about that. So I want to talk about my highlight. So what I liked best from yesterday was having a great conversation with a couple from Australia while we were waiting for the Elizabeth Line tube station train and from the Heathrow Airport. So we were both standing there waiting and talking about how intimidating the tube looks. It is a lot further down from the platform down into the track, which is kind of crazy, and how it's shaped very circular like a tube is kind of probably where the nickname comes from, that it was kind of intimidating. It didn't look as appealing as I thought it would be, as other subways like the New York City subway isn't nearly intimidating. And I much preferred mass transit, so it's very interesting that I was intimidated by that. Nobody ever talks about it, which is also very interesting. But just kind of keep that in mind as you're working through that. And it was also a very long walk to get to that line from the actual Heathrow Airport. So nobody also talks about how much walking you have to do to get off the plane and get through border patrol and checking and pick up your baggage, and then also get to your destination. So just keep that in mind. That is a hell of a lot of walking if you want to do that. I think next time I'd much prefer to take a taxi. That saved me a lot of walking. So that is another option as well. So getting on to today's highlight, I think the biggest highlight for me was actually going across the Tower Bridge while on the bus. And so actually going underneath the columns and just looking out over the river and everything, it was very cool to see. That was probably a big highlight of mine. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a rest. I had a little picnic here on my bed. I grabbed a sandwich and some chips and an ice cream bar from the grocery store across the street. And so now I'm just gonna chill, relax, hang out for the evening, and I will check in tomorrow. Bye.